On today's Strictly Vikings, we talk some more Aaron Rodgers. We do it every week. There's nothing to talk about really in the NFL right now. So we're going to talk Rodgers and what he pitched to the Minnesota Vikings. It's some pretty obvious stuff. We got some other Vikings news and notes. We got some news and notes from around the rest of the NFL as well, including some Masters talk because Rory finally did it. And then we're going to recap all the players that we've highlighted on this show for the NFL draft that is only 8 days away if you're listening to this on Wednesday. If not, we're even closer to the NFL draft. And we're going to take a look back at one of my favorite Vikings games of all time. Let's get right into it. Today is Wednesday, April 16th, and we're going to be leading the show off with Aaron Rodgers once again, because it was revealed that he gave a pitch to the Minnesota Vikings that basically was, we're going to take a 1-year shot at a Super Bowl, and I will do my best to mentor JJ McCarthy. So he basically said what every fan that wanted Aaron Rodgers to come here, that's what they were saying. And that's what Aaron Rodgers said to the Vikings. Obviously, that was his only pitch, and that was his best way to do it. You're not going to be like, I'm your franchise guy for years to come. I'm not going to mentor JJ McCarthy. You're not going to say anything the Vikings don't want to hear if you're Aaron Rodgers. So he said the right things. Would Aaron Rodgers have followed through with that? I don't know. Aaron Rodgers isn't notorious for coaching up young quarterbacks in the past, especially with the likes of Jordan Love. He said Brett Favre never did it for him and that he wanted to change and be different about Jordan Love. But you look at Jordan Love now and it's like not much really rubbed off on him. Jordan Love doesn't really have that killer instinct like Aaron Rodgers has. And do we want JJ McCarthy to learn from Aaron Rodgers, or would we just rather have him learn from Ken O'Connell? And yeah, you can probably say, oh, he can do both. But wouldn't you rather just have your head coach and the guy he's going to be with forever be coaching him rather than having Aaron Rodgers, a guy who might not want to coach him or a guy who might not know what JJ McCarthy is like and bring him in to do it? I don't think so. So I think he told the Vikings what they wanted to hear. And I think the Vikings knew that. And ultimately, it didn't change their mind on bringing him in. So they're out on him, which I have no problem with. JJ McCarthy's got to be ecstatic. They've turned this guy down even after he said exactly what they wanted him to say. He's got to be ecstatic. He hasn't played a snap in the NFL, and they're already choosing him over one of the best quarterbacks of all time. And I know he's not at that level anymore, but still, it goes a long way of showing how bought in they are to JJ McCarthy, them being the Minnesota Vikings. Let's get into some other news and notes around the Vikings as well. Bo Richter had high praise for JJ McCarthy. I mean, this is where we're at in the offseason. We're talking about Bo Richter, a special teams guy, a guy who rarely plays, and he's given high praise to JJ McCarthy. That's where we're at in the offseason news. Reports out of Minnesota are saying McCarthy has been in the building almost every single day this offseason and has been throwing a couple days a week as well. Great stuff to hear. He's not out there vacationing. He's getting ready for the season. We're not even close to the season yet, but he's getting ready for it. And that's what you like to hear as a Vikings fan. According to Over the Cap, Vikings will be investing around $50 million per year in their offensive line. $50 million per year. Wait. Oh, this year. $50 million this year in their offensive line. Sorry, typo on my end. That's great. I've been wanting the Vikings to do this for years and years and years. I've been begging them to please invest in the interior of this offensive line. You can't just keep kicking the can down the road and not doing anything about it. So they signed a long-term guard. They signed a center who's proven to a 2-year deal. And then they have a first-round pick that they can invest on an offensive lineman. They got more cap room. They could go with Brandell, who was actually pretty good with Darisaw on the left side last year. They got options. And I'm just happy the Vikings are finally executing the game plan in which it takes to win a Super Bowl, in my eyes. Dalton Reisner said Vikings fans were a huge reason why he signed with the team in 2023, per his TikTok. That's actually crazy news to think about, because I remember when Dalton Reisner got signed in 23. Was it 23 or 24? I believe it was 24. I believe it was last season. That was awesome to hear, because Vikings fans were literally convinced on Twitter that they were the reason they got him. And he almost kind of confirmed that it was. Vikings fans on Twitter were all over him. They wanted Dalton Reisner on the team so bad because the Vikings needed guard help. I forget who the guard was at the time. It wasn't Ed Ingram. It was the left guard. I forget who it was at the time, but Reisner replaced him, played pretty good. Obviously, they brought him back for this past season. It's actually pretty crazy that players see that, though, and that I guess you would want to go to a place where you would be loved. And he was a free agent at the time, wasn't even on a team. So it's like the fan base loves you, and then the team finally reaches out. It's kind of a no-brainer move to go to the Vikings in that situation. Reports are saying Kwesi is not going to get an extension before the NFL draft. I find this odd, in my opinion. He doesn't have an extension, so this is going to be his last year. So he's going into a lame duck year as of now. Like, he's free agent. He's not the Vikings GM after this next season. I believe the Vikings have given him the confidence to believe he will be back, and I believe he will be back. But at the same time, doesn't that thought in the back of your head just stick around? Like, if your job is telling you, yeah, you're going to get extended, you're going to get a raise, you're going to get a promotion. And I know Kwesi isn't getting that, but it's not like your job's going to come to you and be like, we're going to extend you for a certain amount of time. But if your job kept telling you you're going to get a raise or a promotion, you're going to get it. You're going to get it. But then they continuously never gave it to you. Wouldn't that like thought in the back of your head be like, is it actually going to happen? Like, I think if the Vikings were all in on Kwesi, home run, kind of like how they are with Kevin O'Connell, this would be done. But I think there's some doubt in the back of their head with these past drafts. The free agency has been fantastic, one of the best in the NFLs of the last couple of years, but the drafts have been lacking. And maybe those thoughts are in the back of the Wolves' head saying, we want to see another draft before we extend them. Maybe this year's draft is determining on what extension he gets. Maybe he gets another year if the Wolves thinks he crushes this draft. If he trades back, gets some good value, gets guys that the Vikings need, get guys that the Vikings want, maybe he gets extended for a year. And it's tough to do it because NFL players, those players haven't played on the field yet, so you don't know how good they're going to be. But again, if it's just another botched draft, it's like maybe they took a year or two off his extension. I don't know what it is, but whenever there's delays in deals getting done, there's usually a reason. But I believe Kwesi will be back. I believe Kwesi believes he will be back. And it's just a matter of time before getting the deal done. But still, at the same time, it's kind of odd it hasn't gotten done yet. I don't know if we talked about this last week or not, but the Vikings might play in Ireland next year. Rumors are having the Steelers, and it would be a Steelers home game, so a Vikings away game, which would be nice. And I'm a redheaded Vikings fan, so I feel like it would be a crime if I didn't go to Ireland to watch the Minnesota Vikings play football. I went to London last year, blast. It gives me a reason or an excuse, so to speak, to go overseas and to do that. I don't know. I feel like I would do it. It'd be one hell of a trip, probably. We'll see what happens, though. All right, let's take a side-eye look around the league here, other NFL news and notes, but let's lead it off with Rory. Do you think Rory McIlroy, he's the winner of the Masters this year, completed his career Grand Slam. Do you think Rory was more relieved that he won or that he didn't blow it again? Because honestly, I think he's more relieved that he didn't blow it again. What is the storyline? Rory would be, I don't think he'd be one of the biggest letdowns in golf history. And I can't really touch on this because I'm not the expert in golf. But a guy that's come so close so many times, but couldn't put it away so many different times. Like, it becomes, and I don't want to say the Minnesota Vikings of PGA, but it almost is. It's like if those other majors are the NFC championships and he's gotten there, but he can't win the Super Bowl, which is the Masters, I guess he is the Minnesota Vikings, but I don't know. It's kind of different. But congrats to Rory. The emotion after he made that put on 18 in the playoff was unbelievable. You could tell it was the monkey off his back. It was something that he'd been thinking about for so long. And pretty excited for him that he finally got it done. It's got to be one hell of a feeling. Jalen Ramsey is seeking a trade from Miami. Could he be a Minnesota Viking? Jalen Ramsey was not there when Brian Flores was there in Miami. At least I believe he wasn't. I do not think they overlapped whatsoever. I think Jalen Ramsey still got some juice in the tank. And the Vikings have cap space. They don't have a lot of trade capital, though. And that's where I think it get tricky. I think the Vikings would have to give up a player. They'd have to give up next year's picks, which in a draft after a draft, so in the 2026 NFL draft, you have all your picks. I believe you have more picks because of some trades that maybe happened in the past. But do you want to get rid of those after a draft you just had this season in 2025 when you don't have a lot of picks? Like, that's kind of what they have to weigh, I feel like. I don't know what the asking price for Jalen Ramsey is going to be, but I feel like the Vikings should consider it. They definitely still need a corner, whether they draft one or get another one in free agency or trade for Jalen Ramsey. They definitely need another one. I feel like it would be a good fit. Jalen Ramsey is just one of those players to where it's like, it doesn't really matter what defense you're playing. Jalen Ramsey is going to be a dog. He's going to be a lockdown corner. He's still got some juice in him. And if the Vikings are legit about trying to win a Super Bowl this season, I think Jalen Ramsey is a legitimate option for them. Honestly, moving forward, if you don't even want to move, if you even don't want to win a Super Bowl this season, why not next season? Why not the season after with Jalen Ramsey on the team? He's got that much juice left in him, I feel like. It's just a matter of what's the asking price. The Vikings are willing to commit to that. But, I mean, if you have a cornerback room with Ramsey, Murphy, Mekhi Blackman, guys like that, Isaiah Rodgers, I mean, that's a loaded group. That's a Super Bowl caliber defense right there, I feel like. So we'll see what happens. Drew Lock signed with the Seahawks. Man, I said it earlier, but we are in the offseason, dude. Drew Lock signed with the Seahawks. Who cares? Honestly, who cares? Joe Flacco signed with the Browns. This kind of stinks on the Vikings end. I feel like the Vikings were definitely a suitor for Joe Flacco, but just because of the comp pick scenario, they didn't want to sign him. It was wow, and I'm seeing a report that the Browns view Joe Flacco similarly to Kirk Cousins. That's crazy. But Joe Flacco, he would have been a great option for the Vikings. Veteran, could have definitely taught JJ backup, but I mean, if he got away, he got away. I think the backup quarterback is important. All these Vikings fans are saying that it's not. But then you look at a season like 2017. Case Keenum got us to the NFC Championship game. You look at other seasons that the Vikings have had with successful backup quarterbacks. Even Sam Darnold. He wasn't supposed to be the backup, but like signing a guy like that can make a world of a difference, especially when Kevin O'Connell is your coach. The Vikings will trade for a guy, or they will sign a guy after the draft, after the comp pick doesn't factor into signings. The Vikings will make a move for a backup quarterback. It's just a matter of time. And Joe Flacco just sucks because he was one of the guys at the top of the list, I feel like, for the Vikings. Shedeur Sanders, I saw him this past weekend, actually. He pulled up to a 7-on-7 event that I was at. Is having one more workout with the Giants. He also visited the Steelers, too. One more workout with the Giants. Less, I believe it's happening this week. So a week before the NFL draft, when the Giants are a possibility to draft them. I feel like the Giants are still thinking about it. I mean, they definitely are still thinking about it if they're having a workout with them. I don't think signing Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston holds you back from signing a quarterback or from drafting a quarterback whatsoever. If that's something that you want to do, I think you go after it. And I think you do everything in your power in order to make sure that you know you're making the right decision. Hence why they scheduled this workout. I think he's still an option to go to the Giants 1,000%. He could be the future. And if Brian Daboll likes it, then maybe he does it. Maybe he pulls the trigger and they go with Shedeur for the future. Who knows? I think the Giants need to win games now in order to keep Daboll's and the GM's job there. But also, drafting a rookie quarterback could give you some leeway as well. Who knows? It's going to be a tricky decision. I just glad I'm not a Giants fan. Let's just say that. Dak said he could play in a game right now. Well, I could do a lot of things that I don't have to. I could say this, that, and that, but if I don't actually have to do it, you'll never know if it actually could happen. And that's how I feel about Dak Prescott. I could play in an NFL game right now. Well, you don't have to. So it's easy to say that right now. All right, let's talk about the players. Moving on from news and notes here. Again, not a lot going on in the NFL right now. Let's talk about some players I've highlighted since the offseason started for the Vikings to potentially draft. Travion Henderson, Ohio State running back. And as I'm going down this list, if the Vikings got one or two of these guys, I would be ecstatic. Even if they got one of them, I would be ecstatic. Because these are all first, second round guys, in my opinion. Travion Henderson, Ohio State running back, would add a explosive, dynamic element to this Vikings offense. I think the odds of drafting a running back went down when they traded for Jordan Mason, but at the same time, getting a young, explosive running back, I don't think there's any Jahmyr Gibbs type backs, but maybe a tier below that, that could be huge for this offense. Could be something they've been missing. Jahdae Barron, Texas cornerback, would be a big scheme fit for Brian Flores' defense, a guy that can play all over the field. He's almost a mix of a Josh Metellus, Byron Murphy type. He is a lockdown corner. He matched up against Jeremiah Smith, played a great game against Jeremiah Smith, obviously the most talented wide receiver in college football this past season. Jahdae Barron's legit. And if the Vikings walked away with him at 24, I would be very excited for the future of that DB room. Another DB, East Carolina cornerback, Siobhan Ravel. A bigger corner, a guy who didn't play last season due to an injury. I believe he played 2 games and suffered the injury, but he is a big guy. He doesn't really have the makeup speed, but man, he is big, he's long, and he can defend at the point of attack. And that is a guy that Brian Flores would love. And it's a guy who would just be a good football player. Like he doesn't really have a lot of things you have to worry about besides the injury and what he looks like coming back from that. Michigan defensive tackle Kenneth Grant. We're going to go D tackles here in a row. Kenneth Grant, instantly put him at the nose, bump Harrison Phillips to the 3 technique, and you're basically drafting 2 players with 1 in that. Kenneth Grant is a beast. He is huge. But not only is he huge, he can get after the passer. He's quick. He can move. I love Kenneth Grant. I think he would add a dynamic element to this defensive line that is much needed. And I believe he could have a very successful NFL season. NFL career, at that matter. Tyleik Williams, Ohio State defensive tackle. Another bigger guy, not as quick as Kenneth Grant, not as much of a pass rusher as Kenneth Grant, but another guy that could go in the first, second round. A guy that could be another not explosive, but a important piece to this Vikings defense. A guy that can stop the run while still creating pressure, interior pressure on that defensive line. Maybe he's not racking up the sacks that other guys would, but he's moving the pocket, making it difficult for the quarterback to step up. Toledo defensive tackle Darius Alexander, a guy who is just an athlete. Yes, he played in the MAC. Yes, he had some good stats, but this dude is a freaking athlete. This guy dropped back into coverage, jumped up, got a pick, and returned it 40 yards. There's not a lot of D tackles that can do that. So this is a guy that would play right from the get-go. He's older, so which I could see him falling in the draft because of his age. But maybe you're getting him at a discount. Drafting older players just because they're older doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. That just means they're probably closer to their peak, but that means you're going to get playing time out of them now. It's not a Dallas Turner type. Dallas Turner is young. He's going to take years to develop. Maybe this next season he blossoms. Maybe the season after is where he really turns into an NFL full-time starter. But with older guys coming out of college, you don't really have to worry about that as much. And lastly, Iowa running back Caleb Johnson. Another guy that would add an explosive element to this offense. A guy that reminds me of Adrian Peterson. Not nearly the prospect Adrian Peterson was, but he runs like him. Downhill runner, blazing speed still, and a guy that would be a great fit for the Vikings offensive scheme with all the zone running, all of that stuff. And he would have all the fans, all the Iowa fans that are also Vikings fans. It'd be a great fit in Minnesota. I would just keep an eye on those guys. If the Vikings walked away with any of those guys in any round, I would be pretty ecstatic. That would be a good first pick, most likely first picked, in my opinion. Lastly, here on the podcast, wrapping up, I just want to talk about the 2023 game against the Falcons. I made a video on it the other day. It was the Josh Dobbs game. Jaron Hall started the game, quickly went out with a concussion, got rocked. Josh Dobbs came in. Guys didn't even know his name. They didn't even know his cadence. He didn't even know the plays. Kevin O'Connell was giving him the plays in his headset as he was relaying it to him because he didn't know anything. He didn't know any better. It's a pretty wild concept that happened. And it was honestly one of Kevin O'Connell's greatest coaching masterclass in his entire coaching career. And yeah, you want to be able to get it done when you have all the guys. When all the chips are out on the table, they're pushed to the front, and you're going for the Super Bowl. Yes, you want to be able to win games. But how can your coach win games when shit goes sideways? When you're up against the wall, when everything is not going your way, what is your coach doing to win the game? And Kevin O'Connell literally pulled every trick out of his sleeve in order to get that one done, in order to make that win happen. And I believe that's one of the greatest coaching performances ever. Josh Dobbs, yeah, he had some plays where he pulled out of his butt and, he ran for touchdowns, whatever. But when you're able to lead a 2-minute drive to touchdown drive to go win the game with a quarterback you've never played with before, who doesn't know the plays, and you're somehow able to capitalize off that, I mean, that's unbelievable work. I was at the game. It was one of the most exciting football games I've ever been to. A game that my brother and I will never forget. Never forget. And it's just crazy to look back at that. And I feel like highlighting games like that is important because it's why we're a fan. I was watching Adrian Peterson highlights last night, and I was literally sitting there telling my girlfriend, I'm like, this is why I'm in love with the Vikings. This one player was the main highlight of this team for so many years, and he was the one guy that made me tune into Vikings games because Adrian Peterson was that freaking dude. Anyway, I'm done with my rant. Let's name the most random Vikings player you can think of on ChatGPT. Name the most random Vikings player you can think of. I'm going to go with Joe Webb. I feel like it's been Joe Webb the last couple of weeks, but I feel like they're just going to say it again. Troy Williamson. Dude was supposed to be the next big thing after Randy Moss, and well, he definitely wore the jersey. Yeah, he didn't turn out all that great. We can just leave it at that. I appreciate you guys tuning in for the continued support. Podcasts are going to get better after the draft with just how much there's going to be more to talk about. That's the simplest way to put it. But then even after the draft, maybe we go to every other week. Maybe we save some stuff so there's more to talk about each podcast. We'll see. Playing around with it. We'll see what happens. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Have a good one.